It's Deep Focus. I'm your host, Mitch Goldman. The date is Monday, December 13th, 2010. Craig Harris in the studio with me. Our topics, two artists very close to Craig Harris's heart and mine, and maybe yours, Sun Ra and Charles Mingus. This is one of my little orphan episodes of Deep Focus because we don't have the complete recording of the whole 3-hour show. If you are a true obsessive, not only do you win my admiration, but you'll be able to help us complete this. Maybe you recorded that show that night. I don't know. But if not, we do have over 2 hours of the original 3-hour show. So I'm putting them together in 2 episodes, and episode 1 is already up, and this is episode 2. If you haven't heard episode 1, you might want to go find that. So go search on that date, 2010.12.13, or the name Craig Harris on Sun Ra and Mingus. Craig Harris has been on Deep Focus a number of times. You might want to go look for his name and his music, including, he and I have done other shows on Sun Ra and Charles Mingus with other music. In fact, all right, here's a fun little story. I was playing some music of Mingus's on another show, and Craig started texting me madly because it was a version of the band, of Mingus's band, that never went in the studio, and it was the band that put Craig Harris's head on fire. It was George Adams, Don Poland, and Hamiet Blewett, and it's ferocious. So we ended up doing a show. Craig Harris and I did a Deep Focus focusing on that band, and it's the wildest. Mingus, that's the whole band. It's them plus Charles Mingus and Danny Richmond. It's a quintet, and it is just the most explosive thing. It will change your conception of who Mingus was as a band leader, that he made music like this. But this show that we're playing on, the one you're listening to now, this podcast, that's not bad either. It's great stuff. And Craig's always tons of fun. Obviously, any gigs he's talking about are in the past. But, man, go and catch Craig Harris. Definitely when you're in New York. He does a lot of stuff up around Harlem and elsewhere. And but he's out and about. So maybe he's coming to a town near you. I hope so. So, okay, here we go. So this is part 2. It's December 13th, 2010. Craig Harris on the topic of Sun Ra and Charles Mingus. It's Deep Focus. Hey, it's Mitch again. Okay, something I have to tell you about. I just listened through the entire show, and much to my frustration, it sounds okay in the beginning. As it goes along, there's some digital noise interference that shows up. I believe this is because of the breakdown in the material of the CD that it was recorded on. And I don't have any tools to fix it. I'm going to leave this up for 2 reasons. First of all, it sounds terrific in the beginning, and you can decide how much of it you want to listen to, if any. And if it gets to the point, it's progressive. It gets progressively worse. If it gets to the point where it's really irritating, turn it off. Find another episode of Deep Focus. There's over 350 of them out there now. And there's another reason that I'm putting this up, which is that I see that some researchers and academics seem to have discovered Deep Focus, and people are using this for research purposes, which I heartily encourage, as long as it's for free academic use. You can, acknowledge the source, and feel free. You can contact me if you want to take it any further than that. So I want to give people an opportunity to make use of that, because Craig Harris has some great things in this. Goes into talking about there was a really interesting and historically significant event. Festac took place in Nigeria, 1977, that Craig Harris was part of. He was there with Sun Ra. He goes to Fela Kuti's shrine. He talks about that. It's pretty remarkable. It's something that people study to this day, all these years later. So I want to make that available. And I don't know, hopefully maybe someday there will be some digital tools that can clean these things up. I hope so. So I'm leaving it up here, but with the caveat that it is by no means a pristine recording. I think me in particular, as the producer of this show, can tolerate analog noise, like cassette sounds, a lot more easily than digital noise. Digital noise, if it's bad, makes it really tough to listen to. But you can, if you're really motivated to hear what is being said, you'll find your way through it. And you'll be rewarded at the end because we play some music from Sun Ra, live recording from Berkeley in 1978 that Craig Harris is part of. And that music recording is intact. So you'll hear that clean and green. You could just skip ahead to that if you like, but take it as it comes. This is an acknowledged, compromised episode. And also, as I said earlier, it's missing a good 40-some minutes of content anyway. So, hey, I'm doing my best by you. All right. Enjoy it as you will. It's Deep Focus.
The Apollo band. And this when Apollo was in its heyday, when they had shows all day from noon to 2 o'clock in the morning. And Harold Vick used to be in the band. And so me and Harold Vick met because we were working with Lena Horne's orchestra on Broadway. And so during our breaks on Wednesdays, matinees sometime, we wanted something to eat. So Vic would say, come on, I'm going to take you someplace. And so he took me to this church. And I'm saying, well, we're going into a church. And we went upstairs, and they have a cafeteria up there. And they used to have these women who would cook all this incredible high cholesterol, high hypertension, good macaroni and cheese, collard greens, fried fish, fried pork to the fork, everything. It was, and you could eat for like $3.50, $4. You could just have a big meal and a big glass of lemonade.
Nice.
And so I would start going up here, and then I started.
And you could play after eating like that?
No. Oh, that's true. I slept. And I was young when the body was younger. We could eat like that back then, But I would go there in the cafeteria, and I would hear this in another room. I would hear these trombones. I would hear trombones. I said, I hear trombones. And I go in the room, and these trombones are playing, and I'm looking at them. I'm saying, whoa, this is really interesting. And they have this great thing about this great culture. And I met this guy named Elder Babb, who was the leader of this group called Sons of Thunder, McCullough's Sons of Thunder. And I just appropriated some information from them because we all appropriate information from each other. Some people call it stealing.
No, not at all.
Let's say appropriate information. Mm-hmm. And I said, I want to use this kind of configuration with this book. And so I started checking with some of my colleglia, like Gary Valente and Alfred Patterson and Curtis Folks, Joe Daly, Bob Stewart, some of the brass players who were kind of similar, knew something about this tradition. Adam Klippel plays keyboards, and Damon Dwight is playing drums. And I started doing this piece. I wrote this piece, and we just wrote this incredible. It's a multi-layered textual piece, and it deals with spirituality in the sense that we're fellowshipping through the love of sound, And I was commissioned by Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art and Williams College to do this in 2005, and its place is to have it done every year in these holiday seasons because it should join the canon of like Nativity and the Messiah. Mm-hmm. We're going to do it once again. We're going to do it at Harlem Stage. Come out. It's a great piece of work, tying back into, like I said, Wednesday, the 16th, 17th, 18th, and the 19th. The show's at 7 o'clock on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
It's at 7:30.
7:30. Okay.
7:30 on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 7:30. Sunday at 3 p.m. This is at the Gatehouse at Aaron Davis Hall, 135th Street and Convent Avenue. Craig Harris is my guest, talking about his piece, God's Trombones. If you are sitting there in your home or in your car and you're listening to the radio, as much as you may be enjoying this show, you're only having half the experience. The other half is to be in the room with these musicians and give something back. Your applause, your smiles, your experience. Right. And if you are not doing that, you're not having the full experience of being a great listener. And this is a fantastic opportunity because it's got the music, it's got the history, the whole cultural story of this great country, and it's a fantastic piece of music. Let me tell you a couple of places if you want to get tickets. You can go to harlemstage.org, harlemstage.org, or call this number, 212-281-9240, 212-281-9240, and extension 19 or extension 20. And should I give them the discount code?
Give them the discount code.
All right. You call up or go online. You tell them Craig sent you. The discount code is letter POCA. You get 20% off your tickets, just like that, because you heard this on WKCR. POCA. And everybody could use a little 20% off.
Right.
So that's fantastic. That's this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 7:30, Sunday at 3. And then can I also ask you about this other program that you're doing?
Right, and this ties in with this whole thing. You know, like Mitch said, he said something very important. Come and hear the music, not just because of me, because you're a listener. Because this whole show is like this tape I'm listening to. I was a listener at these Mingus concerts, and the listening process is something very special, especially the live music listening process, something that's not in our culture enough anymore. We have to come out and hear music, and we have to play more music.
You know what? I was thinking about this, Craig. I don't mean to cut you off, but
go on.
You and I have had many, many great music experiences together and separately. And as listeners, you go out, you don't know if that night is going to be the night. Here it is 35 years later, and we're listening to this Mingus thing, and we're tripping on what a great night of music it was from a fantastic band. And at the time, Vanguard, maybe there were 50 people there. Maybe,
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't know. And maybe, would have been that night. You're like, I might go, but I don't want to miss Happy Days. I'm going to stay home tonight.
Right.
And you don't know. It's rolling the dice. You go out and you might have that experience that years later, people are going to say, like, you were there? You were there for that? It's not going to happen if you don't get out of the door. We all know you could stay home. There's always great stuff on the radio and on your computer and all these other places, but there is nothing like being there toe-to-toe with the people making the music.
And that's the truth, Mitch. And it brings us back into this thing because when we went to see this music, Mingus, like we can come off of Mingus and talk about just so many correlations about this period.
Yeah. Now this is very interesting because we were talking about this, and again, we'll let you in on what was the genesis of this show tonight. I said to Craig, I want to draw you out on the things that shaped you as a listener before you became a band leader, a trombonist, and somebody on the scene. You were just in the audience like the rest of us, and you ran through a number of things you tossed out at me. Maybe you could talk about that scene a little bit and your experiences beyond Mingus, because we're kind of moving away from the Mingus now to we have so much great stuff. Let me just make a little sidelight. Listeners, stay tuned Mondays from 6 to 9 p.m. We will hear these concerts in their entirety on other nights, but we're not going to get to all this Mingus tonight. We've got a lot of other great stuff.
That's true.
And maybe you could talk a little bit about that time and the scene and how Mingus fit into that and what else was going on.
We always want to leave people out, but people like Charles Mingus, Max Roach, maybe Miles Davis, as I was telling you before, they were people who kind of really understood their past, really lived their present, and also knew that there was something going to come after them. And
you could say that also about somebody you were playing with, and we're now moving into the later 70s, and you were on the bandstand with Sun Ra quite a lot at that time.
Right.
And I would put him in that category, too.
Of course. In 76, I joined Sun Ra's band and traveled the world. I was recommended by a great saxophonist, Pat Patrick, Lordine Pat Patrick. And, it was a beautiful time where I could just develop. It was a big band. I could just sit in the section and just develop as a musician. And all of these people were what brings all these people together were their Kujichagulias, or they're people who do for themselves. When I say Kujichagulia, that's one of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. Okay, if you don't know what Kwanzaa is, go online and check it out. In that sense of, it predates me pretty much when they were all on the east side, this period when Mingus was on the east side together, because I wasn't around then. I came during this period when he had this quintet and he was going, I think he had moved over to 43rd Street around there.
Oh, yeah.
What was the name?
Was he in the Manhattan Plaza?
Yeah,
where,
right. Everybody
lived, yeah.
Everybody and their mama lived. Dexter Gordon, all the people they lived around there in the mid 70s, and
Ricky Ford.
Yeah, right. And the thing about Mingus and Max Roach, they had and Sun Ra and people like that. They started thinking about. They didn't start thinking about. But they were extension of people who would form things and do things, create their own situations, have something to do about what they're doing. In that sense of Sun Ra, I remember going on tour with Sun Ra, the first time going on Sun Ra, and I remember we packed the bus with equipment. But then in the back of the bus, there was a whole bunch of like brown boxes, and I'm saying, what's in these brown boxes? And I looked in there, he had LPs, and this was like 1975, 76. So he carried boxes and boxes of LPs, and he would sell them on the road, and this predates to where everybody's at right now.
Right.
We're back right now.
Well, also, you know what? Not to take you out of the great flow, but Mingus and Max Roach were 2 of the cats I think of as writing that chart. They started Debut Records probably another 15 years before that.
Right, exactly.
More, 25 years before that.
I don't know. Call your friend Phil. Phil, Phil, call us in and give us the exact date. I know you're going to call if you're listening. Give us, Phil Schaff, give us the exact date, time, birth, everything, and that's he knows a lot. And that's in that sense of exact time, these people, they were, getting into this thing of having somewhat a control of their own destiny, and that's the relationship where we're gonna come out of this Mingus thing and go into somebody like Sun Ra. Like Sun Ra would sell these recordings at we'd be on tour in Europe, and like sometime the engagement didn't pay a lot because that was we were in barnstorming days then. Like you got 2 or 3 good festivals. Like you got Montreux Festival, you got like Arles, and you got another festival. And in between that, once you got there, you say you're going to be there for 3 weeks. And as soon as you get there, and you did some booking before, so you know how you do it. So he'd get on the phone. His manager at that time was Richard Wilkinson, who was married to June Tyson, the singer. And they got there. We had the big gigs, like we had the pillars, and they would be on the phone all day, just putting work in filler in between. So we started with a 3-week tour, became a 3-month tour.
Yeah.
So, and you could do that at that time. That was, we call it barnstorming. But on some of those lean days when there was no work and stuff, when we was like 3 and 4 in the room too, before we had the single rooms, the sales from the LPs would pay the bills.
And he wasn't, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do this, and I don't want to talk too much about the business side of things, which isn't that interesting to most people. But, you could have your record company and, okay, here's our deal, and, it's going to sell in the store for, back then, LPs, $5.99, $3.99, whatever it was, and for every one of those, the company's going to give the artist $1. Nuh-uh, that's not what Sun Ra was doing. Sun Ra, he was actually recording.
He recorded, and he'd press it and stack it.
I've heard stories about the cats in the bus doing the album covers with markers.
Right, and that was it. There was the album covers would be album covers with markers. Sometimes it wasn't just a white album cover, and on the what do they call the little disc in the thing? Sometimes I would just do just a little marking or something, and just sell it to somebody. And he would move a lot. I watched Dave sold. Sometimes they sold, like, you go to a festival and there's like 2,000 people there, and you sell maybe 500 recordings. That's like And I said, if we did this every night, it would be like, what is the rating thing that goes up? I don't know. It's the
sure. Now they like on the charts, the record charts.
Thing, yeah. It would have been peaked. So this was this, and this does go back to Max Roach and Mingus, and it was also in this time of African Americans were in this process of reevaluating their situation in this country. How can we make a contribution, and how can we manifest ourselves as our own, taking care of our own communities? And it created a lot of people who wanted to do things in their own communities. Musicians wanted to own clubs, so you had clubs or lofts, or this predates my loft period, but like this predates where people like Sam Rivers and even before, I don't know who was there, but let's deal with my period. Sam Rivers, Rashid Ali, Joe, what's his name, the singer, Joe Lee.
Oh yeah,
Joe Lee
sure.
Wilson, Wilson, Enveron, Warren Smith, Studio West, Studio We. Anybody who had a loft, Dave Holland, I think, had a little space there. I mean, people just had spaces where they just said, well, let's have this music right here. We could have we can control the audience, and because the clubs are not hiring us, like the music was down, the business was down.
Maybe you could put in context for people who were not in New York at that time, just how different it was in terms of the commercial status of jazz, how the city was different, real estate, I mean, now you move through the streets of New York, it's glitz, there's tourists, there's, clubs are high profile, and there's other places to go, but it was very different then. I mean, it's hard to even describe or imagine how different it was. It was
much more condensed into areas. You had the West Village, you had the East Village, you had the Brooklyn, and you had the Bronx, but they were very converged areas. And it was very funny because you could walk in certain areas. There was, like you were saying, there was no Williamsburg, there was no Park Slope out there,
right.
There was no place out in New Jersey. They were there, but it was the most. If you wanted to be in it, you would be in this area. So,
and you could be, because nobody wanted to be
right
in the city. It was cheap. It was things were rough. Things were really rough.
Like we said, a caller called us in. We had just left Vietnam as a country.
Yeah. This was right around. Interestingly, this we didn't get a chance to look it up exactly, but right around the time this recording was made that we were listening to of Mingus, that was within days, perhaps, of when the country finally pulled out of Vietnam. And it was just a hugely different environment. And the fact that there were empty buildings, you walk down the street and in Manhattan, in what's today a prime neighborhood, and there were, Soho had been printing houses and,
right.
Light manufacturing and everything. These businesses had left. There was nothing there. You'd walk. I mean, it was like walking on the moon. It was like, craters practically. But at the same time, that created an opportunity to move into these spaces and chart your own path. Artists had the opportunity to do the things that you're talking about. And that, maybe you could talk also a little bit about the connection between what actually happened in the music and that ethos of self-determination.
You said the magic word, real estate. Real estate was cheaper then, my first apartment I lived in was $60 a month. I had a two bedroom walk up. And so, everything was much more condensed. Like you could walk from like 21st Street, 7th Avenue, go down to 14th Street, hook across, go over to the east side, then hook down, go down to the Alphabet City, then come back across Houston, come up 7th Avenue, and you could see everybody you needed to see. In fact, it was so impromptu and spontaneous. Like, say if you had a concert that night and you didn't have a band together, in that walk, in that hour walk, you could probably put a band together because you would see people on the street
and half the audience.
Right, exactly. You see somebody. Well, what you doing tonight? You doing nothing? Okay, listen, we're gonna hit here. We're gonna hit here. So and so it pays this much. We're gonna do this, and you can guaranteed. Top flight, especially on this Lower East Side where Mingus was at this time, predating this recording. Slugs. These were on 3rd Street. I think it's 3rd Street. Somebody call me if I'm not correct. 3rd Street, Slugs. This whole area where people lived, and it was about real estate. And as usual, artists are one of the first people to live in areas that nobody wants to live because we can play our music as loud as we want to, as long as we want to.
No, there was nobody to complain.
Right, no complaints.
Cops weren't going to say anything.
No,
neighbors weren't going to say anything. Exactly. It was wide open, and that I don't mean to overly glorify it because there was a price to be paid for living among all that.
It was hard. It was hard living. It wasn't. You wouldn't send your child straight out of the university to live there because it was not. They were not so-called safe places, but they were safe in a sense of that kind of people. There was some kind of respect for people that played music and the culture. People say, "Oh, those are just the artists. Leave them alone. They're going to play the music." It was that important in the communities, and a lot of these places were created like I said, Mingus and Max Roach, long before this, they had created this do-for-self kind of initiative. And you had places like, and another one I forgot is Ali's Ali. And that was started by the great percussionist, drummer, philosopher, great person who left us recently, Rashid Ali. He had on Spring Street, 77 Green Street? Yeah, 77 Green Street, I think. And it's so funny because it ties in, because I used to play there with the great pianist. When we talk about that composition, Orange, I think Jackie Byard, who was a great piano player who worked with Mingus for a long time, and he gave probably some of the greatest versions of Orange. He was all inside of Orange. He worked there every Monday night with his big band, Apollo Stompers, from like maybe 76, 77, all the way until it closed, until Rashid decided he didn't want to be a club owner anymore. And
we talked about that. That I will tell you is one of the things I was hoping I was going to find a live recording of that band, because Jackie Byard was a delight. But we haven't come across that. If anybody's got a recording of that, maybe you could let us know.
Right. Yeah, that was at the Apollo Stompers at the Rashid's Ali's Alley. We would play every Monday night. Good band, or young, and it was something that we need more in our city now. It was a place where young musicians could really get their skills set up. Jackie always did. There's like 16, 18 chairs in the band, and he gave all of us a chance just to come and play that very beautiful, difficult but beautiful music he wrote. And I want somebody to really try to, bring that music to forefront, because we used to go rehearse with Jackie, and he just would have so much music written. You had to have the whole vocabulary, I would imagine, from like 100 years of music, literally, to play with him. To work with him, yeah, to work with him. And that's how you got it together. Jackie Byard was one of those musicians who really, he kind of came through Boston, just playing at a high level, came into the city, did great things. Then he was one of the first of the musicians to start going to education. Now there's jazz schools every nook and cranny in the United States. But Jackie, I think with Jackie McLean and them, they went Hart College in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And he was one of the first. And then he was at New England. And Jackie Byard was quite an educator. He, Sinclair Acey, Bill Saxton, people like this, they spent time with Jackie Byard.
And he was funny.
Oh man, he was funny. He was hilarious. He was that mixture of science and spirit. Science and spirit. And I think this is my first time playing with somebody that I knew every night they were on. He might have thought he was off a couple of nights, but I learned that you have to be on every night. You have to be at the level can't go, but so you have to be on. You know, he just displayed it every time. I'm saying every time.
Then he'd pick up the alto sax, start walking through the audience,
pour a little red wine libation into the saxophone.
Right.
He played trombone and saxophone.
Yeah.
He had a beautiful sound. He was influenced a lot by Ben Webster, Coleman Hawkins. You know, he had that kind of beautiful sound, big thick sound, and he wrote this incredible music.
And talk about extending too.
Oh man, you know, he wrote a beautiful suite of John Coltrane, and this all happened at Ali, and that was a lot of artists started their own place in Brooklyn. They had a place called the East where they had, you know, where a community of people that said we're going to have music in our community, and that goes back to where you know, right now I'm in the process, being that I live in Harlem. We've started a series at every third Sunday at 3:00 on at Mount Morris Ascension Presbyterian Church. At 3:00 we have music. It's called 3-on-3 concert series, and we present all different kinds of music. You know, I started it off with the Saints and Ain't Brass Choir, which was October. Then we've had Eunice Newkirk, Phil Bingham. But this Sunday, I know everybody, I don't want you to get confused. Craig Harris will be playing at Harlem Stage doing God's Trombone. But Craig Harris, the community organizer and this person with some community music, along with his partner Patricia Eaton, we started a series, and we have a great soprano, opera singer. Her name is Carolyn Sebron, and a great young baritone singer named Jarrell Williams, because we believe in just bringing the music all to it. And it goes back to this Mingus, from the great Mingus recording, Let My Children Hear Music. Because we complain a lot about these young people not hearing music. We complain about young people it's not in the communities anymore. If they you know, everybody can't go to the Blue Note or the Iridium and pay the price to hear. It goes back to this thing about this community center. It's like the price is right. If you come out, we can't mention the price on here, but believe me, it's that old school price.
Yes,
okay?
Very wallet friendly.
And you can Facebook us and go on our Facebook page, 3-on-3, and we have a full season. Next January 16th, we're going to have Jazz for Martin. It's for Martin Luther King. It's his birthday, and we're going to celebrate it. Then in February, we're going to have the inspirational voice of Abyssinian Baptist Church. Then Akua Dixon String Quartet is going to play March 20th. So we have a whole schedule, and it's 3-on-3. That means third Sunday at 3:00. Be there. In the neighborhood, it's at Mount Morris Ascension Presbyterian Church, which is 122nd Street in Mount Morris Park West. For those who don't know, that's like 5th Avenue and 122nd Street. You can email us at 3on3concerts@gmail.com. You can visit our fan page on 3-on-3 at Facebook, and support the music in the communities. And that goes back to this whole thing about what Rashid and them were doing down there. And we talked about Jackie Byard and this big band and how he did this thing, but there was also another big band that played there all the time, led by the great saxophonist Frank Foster.
Mm-hmm, yes.
You know, and they used to play. I think we played on Monday nights. They played on maybe Thursday nights and stuff like this. And this was another thing where he had a whole group of young musicians that he was mentoring through, you know, just letting them come play this music. And he called his name of his group was called The Loud Minority.
I love that, because at the time, I don't know, you don't hear that so much anymore. They used to talk about, like, well, there's the whole silent majority, and there was like kind of a political thought that
right.
This is, well, you don't hear them talking about it, but they, believe me, they're most of the country, and they agree with me. Right. So, you know, that was kind of, but was the silent majority. He had the loud minority.
Yeah, he had an incredible unit called the Loud Minority. And, I mean, I'm just going to, you know, some of the names was Bill Saxton, Charles Sullivan, who is now Kamau Adalifu, Kiani Zawadi, Charles Stevens, Mickey Tucker, Bill Cody. I'm missing people. Bill Lowe. Man, so many people. Charles Williams. I mean, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I'm forgetting somebody. So if I forgot a name, I'm just trying to tell you that Frank Ford, Charlie Persip,
right, Charlie
Victor
Persip.
Spoles, I think played bass. You know, just so many different people played.
And Frank Foster was he was a noted, he'd come out of the Basie band, I think,
Came out
right?
of the Basie band.
And many years, and a fantastic reed man himself.
Right. He's in fact, he's a cousin of the Jones family, you know, Elvin Jones and Hank Jones and Thad Jones. So him and Thad Jones, two of the great composer musicians of our time, happen to be somehow distantly related. It's very funny to me. But Frank Foster was this is just getting back to this socialist period. I mean, not so just real together. Frank Foster was very adamant about having a band of color because I think somebody there was might have been Mel Lewis or somebody said, well, you know, you can get more work if you had more white people in your band. And I think Frank Foster said, no, I'm going to have this band, and this band, these are the people that's been playing this music. Not that believe me, Frank Foster loves everybody, but he just wanted to show that this is a strong, at that time we were in this period in our country, I can show you efficient, young African-American musicians who can read the music, who can articulate the music, play it, swing it to death, flow it to death, funk it to death, whatever you want it to death. They'd be there on time, and there was this whole stereotype about African-American musicians about, well, they couldn't read music. So therefore, that was a way for people to keep them out of the high, expensive jobs in the pits, in the Broadway pits and stuff like that. But Frank Foster was, you know, to this day, I have the most respect for him for that, because he's just saying, you know, let's stop playing games. You know, we all come out, you know, like, especially with this genealogy thing now, it's 99.99, what is it? That we're all alike.
Right.
And he says, you know, and so, like, I went to the same school you went to, so, like, move over and let me have one of them gigs in the Broadway pit. So he formed, that's one of his reasons, you know, for forming the Loud Minority.
I think, yeah, as a matter of fact, it's funny, he was from Cincinnati.
Exactly.
And I think I don't want to get this wrong, but there was a kind of an elite public school that I think he came out of that, interestingly, was very, well, anyway, absolutely to the point.
Yeah, we're going to get to some music, though, because I know your people say, y'all quit talking. But the connection also about this whole thing was the person that really also, that we haven't spoken about a lot, who really was about this do-for-self thing, they're going to play a composition by the great tenor saxophonist, composer, just hero, John Coltrane. And they're going to play Giant Steps. As you know, John Coltrane was also about bringing the planet together through all his life, about bringing the planet together. So we're going to hear, I think, John Coltrane's composition arranged by Frank Foster, Giant Steps.
And I just want to catch it up if you're just tuning in. This is WKCR-FM New York. My name is Mitch Goldman. Jazz Alternatives is every weeknight from 6 to 9 p.m. And tonight, with Craig Harris as our guest, we are going in deep focus.
Deep focus.
Some live recordings. We were at the Village Vanguard with Charles Mingus, spectacular quintet recording. And now we're going to Ali's Alley and what we now know as Soho.
Yeah.
And maybe not quite so stylish if you were there in 1977 when this recording was made. And yes, Frank Foster's Loud Minority, Giant Steps on WKCR.
That was a good tag. That was smooth.
Stand by just a sec.
I love it. We're going to talk about that.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. We are going to put our cards on the table here. Stand by. We're going to back it up and give it to you from the top. Here it comes. Craig, you want to talk a little bit for this sec while I do this?
While he's doing this, see, what he's doing is, I came here today and we went into the archives. And Mitch is in here. This is the first attempt tonight. I see a tape recorder. I haven't seen a tape recorder in a long time. And he set the reel up. They cleaned the heads. And before, when we played the Mingus thing, we were on disc, CD.
Yes.
But, that was archived on CDs. But this is a real tape.
This is it.
So we just made this. We went from digital to analog, and there's a process. And this is how they used to do in the old days. And like when it flawed, you did like this. We call it vamping. And you just talk and you just talk while Mitch is getting it together.
Here it is. Here it is.
All right, here we go.
Here it is. Here it is.
That's it, but that's real radio, Mitch.
That is a live recording.
Frank Foster's Loud Minority, recorded live at Ali's Alley.
There you go. 1977. You may have never heard that before. In fact, I could say pretty much for a fact, if you never heard it on WKCR, you probably never heard it at all. But you heard it tonight, a live recording, and brought about by the interest of our guest tonight. I'm Mitch Goldman. My guest is Craig Harris, great trombone player.
Right. And we were talking about, hey, it's so good here to be here. Mitch and I are in deep flowing of, he used to ask me to come on the station and talk about things I listen to as a listener, not as a musician, just things that I would go and listen to as a listener. And this Frank Foster band was, it was required listening because he's one of the great writers of our time. He's still with us too. Most people know they associate him with the Basie Band, and probably his most famous composition, "Shiny Stockings."
Right, of course.
And which he recently received. He didn't own the royalties for that for a long time. Just in the last 2 years or a year or something that he reclaimed. He got the rights back to "Shiny Stockings." He's in a wheelchair right now, but that's not stopping his mind. He's still writing great music. He has transcended, and he's a 21st century musician in that he's working with the computer, writing music. I think Cecil Bridgewater leads his band sometime while he coaches from the side. And always a giving person. And it's a reflection of that time that we were. It was a. I don't like to say it was a more giving time because I know people right now are giving time, and for me it was a more giving time. New York was much closer because, and you said the magic word, Mitch, real estate. New York was a much affordable city then, and therefore it could be a much more creative city because creative people could live here, and that's why it was such a vibrant time.
You know what else? I mean, just to unpack that a little bit, I think everything you say I completely agree with, but also cannot overemphasize how rough it was, how dangerous it was, how neglected it was. I mean, it seemed like maybe not as much as some cities, but people who had the opportunity, for the most part, had left. And if you were one of the ones who were left behind, there was, you were kind of here because there was either you couldn't afford to make another choice or you had a reason to be here, like the music drew you here, you had to be here for that. And if that was the case, then you kind of came through this doorway into this other place. When you came into a music venue, for instance, there was a sense of, okay, all that crazy nonsense that's going on in the street, we're all agreeing we're going to leave that behind, and this whole other thing is going on here. And that energy, it wasn't, I think it was very informed by the other things that were happening in the city.
You're dead on point. And it brought the community closer together because this was 77, and
you had to make an active choice to be here for this,
and you were
otherwise
here for the music. And most people, and this was also time. Well, at this time we were getting that migration from Chicago. A lot of musicians from Chicago were moving here. From the AACM were moving here. A lot of musicians, as Mohawk Richard Abrams, Chico Freeman, Steve McCall. A lot of these people were moving here. A lot of people from the Bag. Oliver Lake, Julius Hempfield, Hammy Blewett. Blewett was here already before, but a lot of people were moving here. Then a lot of people like Arthur Blythe, David Murray, James Newton in this mid-'70s. Then you had a lot of people just coming here because New York has always been a place to be where you're not strange. It's one of the few places you can go to the world, and I guarantee you that you won't be the oddball out. There's always somebody odd. That's the beauty of the city.
Let me ask you another question. How much flow is there between this music scene, and theater, poetry, painting, sculpting? Was that also part of it?
That was the beauty of it. Everybody, it was all intertwined, the different genres of music. Like, you'd be over at the Mud Club or the cafeteria where Prince and them were playing, or the Rockers, or the Punkers, what's his name? James White and the Black.
Right. James Chance.
With his crazy self. And then, you go down the street to one of the lofts and, like Threadgill is hitting the set there. Or you go to someplace like Diane McIntyre's studio in Harlem, 290 Lenox Avenue. It was a real interchanging between, people like, there was a cross-pollination.
Right.
There was a cross-pollination between the poets, the writers, the poets. It was that, and really, Mitch, it was because of real estate. And then there was Brooklyn. There was Fort Greene, not the Fort Greene we know now. It's the same thing with that little rough Fort Greene was over there too, and you had people from New Orleans moving in around that time. 77, 78, 79. You had New Orleans musicians moving into the city. Art Blakey was coming again. He had started recruited I think people like Wynton Marsalis and Robin Eubanks, and he started this big band around 78, somewhere around there. I don't know. Remember, somebody called me with the dates. But New York, it was always, there was places to go. The Great Tin Palace, which was on, where was that? The Bowery.
Right. Yeah.
There was a resurgence of energy. Not that anything had died and stuff, but this was another resurgence of energy. New York always gets these resurgences of energy coming in, and I don't hang out like I used to, but I'm sure it's going on right now somewhere here. And Rashid's place was one of those places, man. You could see anybody there any night. I mean, any form of music, any form of text, just people, because it was a hang. It was more about the hang. The hang. I think a lot of it had to do with just the hang, the spontaneity of the city. And Frank Foster, as I told you, we talked about Jackie Byard. He held forth there. And at the same time, I remember I was working with Sun Ra. I know we had just came back from Africa. I think we went to the Festac, the World Black Cultural Festival in 1977. The first one was in 1966, where Duke Ellington went. And in fact, right now, at this current time while we're speaking, it's going on right now in Dakar, Senegal right now. I couldn't go this time. That's a drag. I have to get back over there because a lot of my work has been based on that continuum of that African connection.
That must have been, was that the first time you were in Africa at that time?
77, yeah.
That must have been a revelation.
Oh, it was a revelation. It was just a revelation because, we talking about this continuum, people like Don Cherry, Randy Weston, who make this connection with this music. Oliver, Nelson.
Oh yeah, sure.
William Grant Still. This whole thing about African Americans and Africans and where we meet and how we meet in this diaspora. So that thing has always been big with me. It's a big thing. It's probably part of my fabric. And so, to go there. In fact, and now we have this play on Broadway, Fela.
Right.
This big play on Fela, And I remember every night being me and Vincent Chancey, we escaped from Sun Ra. Sun Ra he had a rule: nobody in his band could go over to Fela's. Because Fela was making very strong political statements. It was in the club. There was drinking going on, sinning, and women, and it was just like it wasn't a suitable place for a young musician to go. So me and Vincent Chancey, we used to break out every night after we'd go over to Fela's. So I remember being over Fela's and watching him. In fact, and this was the year before Lester Bowie. Lester Bowie went and lived with him for a year and a half or something. So it's that whole connection, and that ties in. That really ties into this movement. I wanted to play something by Sun Ra. We have anything we could play by Sun Ra?
Yeah, we got another Miracle Live rarity.
Yeah,
we're gonna go. It's the same period. It's November of 1978, okay. And Sun Ra and the orchestra at UC Berkeley playing a nice big room, Zellerbach Auditorium. And you got the call to take that gig, and
I was in the band then. We came from Africa, and we worked up, and then in July 1977, I started my only job I've ever had in my life, my 9-to-5, working for the Nassau County Department of the Aging, and it was something I had just filled out an application. Like when you graduated from school, you fill out a lot of applications. You go on resumes. You go on interviews. And so I had forgot all about it. I'm in Sunrise Orchestra and I'm playing. And so I get a call. Well, we have a job for you. So I went to see what the job was. Because at that time all I wanted to do, you wanted to make $10,000. a year, buy a house, and just live happily ever after with a white picket fence. But my life had changed long before that. And so I went to check the job, and they said, you're working for the Department of Aging, which dealt with elderly people. And I used to go sit in this office, and this woman, she would watch me. I sit in the office. I'd just be miserable because I didn't have a social work background. So, you know, I wasn't in the right department. But she was patient. She gave me a desk. I sat at the desk, and I just push papers, make phone calls, and then she just got tired of me. She said, "You're a musician, right?" I said, "I'm really a musician." She said, "Well, listen, I want you to take your trombone," and they had throughout Nassau County, they had aging centers, you know, like assisted living centers where the aged elderly would have, and they had a center in the middle where they come in the daytime and have the activities. She says, every day I want you to play at one of the centers. I want you to go, I give a book, you know, here's the repertoire, Sheikh of Araby, Let Me Call You Sweetheart, what's the Easter song, the Easter parade.
Oh yeah,
song.
right. Wow. Oh
This,
man,
you know,
moldy oldies.
Oh, moldy oldies.
Now, did this feel corny to you, or did it feel like an opportunity? I mean, like, cause Sunrise would play stuff like that.
Yeah, but this was corny. This is like corny. I'm in the middle of the revolution. I'm trying to change the word. I'm trying to modulate on the modulation. I'm trying to get my craft together. I'm trying to, you know, just do all kinds of different things, and I have to play these old tunes. She'd be like, well, something like Tommy Dorsey, Glenn Miller. I'm like,
I'm picturing you like the starched collar kind of.
Right. And she was a really nice woman. But you know what the lesson was? She said, you can play every day. Just go. You don't have to come in the office. Just call in, tell us where you're at. And so I went and I started playing, you know, and it's good for, you know, just, you know, get your ballad stuff together, you know, just get your sound together, working on the sound, working on your repertoire, learning your repertoire. So I would go to these places and I would play. Then I met
there's always an opportunity, right?
Yes, always. If you keep the instrument in your focus, things happen. You're working on it all the time. You're working, so it's just another way to work. And I was playing by myself solo, and these people, they knew these songs, so they would hum along with the song, or they would sing the songs, you know. And they would start to miss me. They said, "Well, we're looking forward to you coming next week." And this goes back to what we said. We want to make a change in people's lives. You know, you want to bring something to people. So I got a book. I learned a lot of the songs. I learned the songs. I got them in my head. And I would go around. And it was good, you know, to play them. Then I met an old saxophone player. He was about 80-some years old. He had, you know, he was like, Jimmy Dorsey.
Right. Yeah.
You know, he kind of, you know, he said, "Hey man, let's play this song together." You know, so we played the song together. I said, "Okay, well, you can come on. We can travel together." You know, because he had a car too. So me and him, we get in the car and we go to Elmont.
68-year difference.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I'm like 23, 24. This guy is about 70-something, 75. So we got our little duo going.
Yeah.
And we met a piano player at another center, and we just go to Belmore, Elmont. We just would go around this thing. And it was, you know, like I'm telling you, life is interesting. You know, stay open. And I learned a lot of those songs at that time. I learned a lot of those songs.
Would you still play them if you?
I think I could. Of course, I can play them. But the thing is, you're right, though. You made the connection. Sunrise did play a lot of. That was his age group. It was older than him, but that was the music he came up on. So,
you know, Sonny Rollins will dig those out too, and it sounds so hip. And he's playing. You like listen to the recording of this song that he's playing, and
you know, so it was a good time. You know, you learn something about your dynamics. You don't have to full blast. You know, I like to play loud too, but you know, there's a soft side too. You learn something about dynamics. You learn about how to pace yourself. You know, you have to play for hours. You know, you learn how to pace yourself. You learn
I imagine also playing for an audience. You know, they may not be. You know, these are not the hippest downtown New York people, but they probably love the music as much or more because they don't have it in their lives every day.
Right, because they weren't experts. They just came. There's people. The function of music to help people. It's the basic function of music is to motivate, to help people, and that's the basic core. So we go every day. Like I do, like maybe 2 centers in the morning and 2 centers in the day. And it was really beautiful because I had my own schedule. I had to go sit in the office, and this is the only job I ever had in my life, working for a 9 to 5, and it became a very sweet job. In fact, I left and I left finally because Sunrise we did a Saturday Night Live show. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember watching that.
We did Saturday Night Live, and after that we went on tour. And I just told them I'm leaving now. But it was a beautiful, maybe 8-9 months. It was beautiful 8-9 months.
But within that time, in 1978, was this
that tour came. The band, they were going to in fact, they were going to California, and some of my people were like, we really, just young musicians. I'm not trying to be an old fig and say, man, we used to do this, we used to do this, but really, Sunrise took maybe 3 or 4 cars and drove to California. Put the whole band in 3 or 4 cars and drove to California. And not the best cars and the best breakdowns, everything. This was serious road. This was serious road.
Didn't even pick up some gigs along the way.
No gigs. Great
Georgia.
Right. Vince and Chancey has a funny story because they were in, this was the time when they used to have these leather holsters. Like we used to wear these leather holsters in New York. They were wallets, like they looked like holsters.
Right.
They looked like you were packing
strapped. Yeah,
you were strapped. So the band gets out. Vincent said they were somewhere in but United States somewhere. They go into the diner and they got the space hats on and everything.
No offense to you, residents of
but they have these holster looking things on it, and and the people, and so they eat stuff. They come outside. The people outside got guns and ready for them because they thinking it's a takeover. And
little did they know.
Yeah, just a wallet. But Sunrise was incredible that way. He would make things. He made things happen.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He made things happen. It was serious dudes with him. It was serious dudes. It was never. He was. I'm looking at a picture. You got a beautiful picture of him. And this person, it was not about money. It was not about money with that man. It was about music. That's what I learned from him. It's about, we all love the, to have things, to possession. We all love money. We love what money can do. But with him, I really learned about if you're going to be a musician, you really have to love the music. This man loved music. He loved music and he loved presenting music. And so we're not going to talk too much more because I know we got hardcore people like y'all quit talking and play some music. But what are we going to play now?
Yeah, let's go to UC Berkeley, November 24th, 1978. Sun Ra, the orchestra stepping up on the bandstand, and we're going to hear King Porter Stomp. This is WKTR. I'm Mitch Goldman. I have the great pleasure of Craig Harris being in the studio tonight. And we're breaking it down.
Yes, we are.
Okay, Sun Ra at UC Berkeley, 1978.
Next song will be King Porter Stomp, Jelly Roll Martin, a Fletcher Henderson arrangement.
This is listener-sponsored radio, KPFA and KPFB in Berkeley and KFCF in Fresno. Sun Ra and his orchestra.
Behold, the sound mirror, the sound mirror. Behold the image of the sound of you. The you never allowed to become a living reality. Behold the sound of the sound mirror and see the you never allowed to become a living reality. Reach in the empty air for love. Reach in the empty air for love. Love dwells somewhere there. Somewhere there. Love dwells on the other side of the boundary of the last possibility. The last possibility. Love dwells on the other side of the boundary of the last possibility. The last possibility. Special. That was a Fletcher Henderson arrangement, Big John Special. If you find her boring, just the same old same thing, come on, sign up without a space wait, incorporated. If you find her boring, just the same old same thing, come on, sign up without a space wait, incorporated. Travel the spaceway. Travel the spaceway. Planet to planet. From planet to planet. Travel the spaceway. Travel the spaceway. Planet to planet. From planet to planet. We travel the spaceway. We travel the spaceway. Planet to planet. From planet to planet. We travel the spaceway. We travel the spaceway. Planet to planet. From planet to planet. We travel the spaceway. We travel the spaceway. From planet to planet. Travel a spaceway. Travel the spaceway. Planet to planet. From planet to planet. Travel the spaceway. Travel the spaceway. Planet to planet. From planet to planet. Travel the spaceway. Travel the spaceway. Planet to planet. From planet to planet. Travel the spaceway. Travel the spaceway. Planet to planet. Planet to planet. Travel the spaceway. Travel the spaceway. Planet to planet. Planet to planet. Travel the spaceway. Planet to planet. Yeah. Da 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 ba ba ba. Yeah. Da 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 ba ba ba. Yeah. Da da space ways, planet to planet. You travel the space ways, planet to planet. Spaceways, planet to planet. We travel 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 spaceways. Planet to planet, 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 we travel spaceways. Planet to planet. We travel spaceways from planet to planet. We travel spaceways.
Misunderstanding can come through music. America is only guilty of one thing, that's crushing music. That very inventive, very creative, and thoroughly American. And America has been guilty of that for maybe 25 years or 30 years. It's boomeranging back on them, you see. You never did have a rule of a country coming up saying the music was corrupt when America had a free system where all musicians could present what they're doing. You never had that. So now you have to get out of this valley where you are. And you get out this valley. Then that will change everybody's destiny. Now the other way you can do it is through music. You see what happens when you have an earthquake? That's music. When I was in Philadelphia, I heard something like a big bass drum and a bass violin, and it was an earthquake in Philadelphia. It was moving things. So then what happens? Sound can move the earth. That's what makes earthquakes, sounds. You'll hear sound when earthquake happens. So then, if you get the right kind of sounds, you can move the whole earth somewhere else. Now when you move the earth somewhere else, you change everybody's destiny because you'll find you another place under the stars.